Hi guys, welcome back to the Drive Life channel. In today's video I'm going to be talking through all the things that broke on my recent track day in my lovely Volvo S80. Yeah, you heard it right, I took this thing on a track. We went to Thruxton, which is a British touring car track, 2.4 miles, fastest track in the UK. Has an ultra grippy surface, and we went to, well, have fun, but also to learn a few skills ahead of going to represent the UK in Madrid for the UK, or the International Best Young Driver competition. So IM invited me down, so I didn't really have any other car, to be honest. The smart car's broken. It was either this, a Jeep Wrangler, or a Mercedes Sprinter, so obviously it made sense to take this, but I obviously did have a few reservations about flying a 2-ton 13-year-old 120,000 mile Swedish barge around the UK's fastest racing track. Nevertheless, it did absolutely brilliantly. We were pushing this thing through bends at 90 miles an hour, squealing the tyres, everything was just pushed to the max. We had really hot brakes, hot tyres, but engine fans were going after each run. But overall, the car did absolutely brilliantly. There were a few things though that went that did suffer, so let's go through them. The first thing was these front tyres. These poor things took an absolute beating. They're actually hot to touch each time you finished the session. Now, when I arrived at Thruxton, these probably had 2 or 3 mil of tread on them. These now probably are only just legal, just over 1.6 mil I've measured them at. So yeah, the surface really was abrasive. Tremendous amounts of grip, really far more grip than you'd realise, and the car was leaning right over, but you can see here where all they've been really scrubbed, and just really abused, so that's where they've got really hot, and yeah, you can just see they took an absolute beating. So probably a good way to send off these tyres. They've taken me to the Arctic Circle and back. We've done 40,000, 50,000 miles, so good way to send them off, I guess. And actually, for a sort of semi-winter tyre, they did rather well on track. This thing's obviously, apart from the Polestar tune, etc., completely standard, so haven't got any suspension work or anything like that. And you could tell, I'll be totally honest, it was leaning quite a bit. It was, the gearbox was very slow to react, but actually, as a car that you could drive to a racing track, race round for sort of 100 miles of racing, and then come back. So I had a 150 mile trip each way. It was just brilliant. It did really well. The alloy as well. I mean, they're in awful condition anyway. The previous owners made sure of that, and I just haven't got round to fixing them. I'm probably going to get a full new set anyway, of nicer ones. But a few more bits have flaked off there, nothing really major. In terms of the back tyres, wasn't too much wear, but we did lose a centre cap somewhere on one of the laps, so that was a little annoying because they hadn't been on there that long, but oh well, can't complain too much. Brakes got very hot indeed. Trying to stop a 2-ton Swedish barge from just over 100 miles an hour down to 30 to go through a chicane. These bad boys worked very hard, but they did amazingly well. Discs didn't overheat, they haven't warped, they stayed consistent throughout with a slight bit of brake fade towards the end, but actually did really well. The pads themselves as well have got plenty of life still, and they didn't catch fire. Honestly, you were standing next to the car and you could feel the heat coming off the front wheels. So yeah, it did remarkably well. In terms of fluids, etc., I checked oil, brake, coolant, steering fluid before each session, or each session even, and after each session it was absolutely fine. Like I said, the fans are working overtime afterwards. I did let the car run just to circulate the coolant round, allow the turbo to cool, or turbos to cool as well, and as a result, yeah, we had 0 issues for the whole day. Like I said, we did nearly 100 miles worth of track driving, and this thing was an absolute beast. It got thrashed. It did get thrashed, probably the hardest it's ever been driven, but 120,000 miles, you wouldn't know. at all. So yeah, that was it really. That was the only damage we had from the whole track day. I did find that the gearbox afterwards was a bit jerky. I think probably because obviously the gearbox probably got quite hot, as well as it had learned that it needed to be driven aggressively. So I was on the motorway and it would hold gears longer than it normally would have, but after a couple of days of driving since and a couple of 100 miles, it's eased back into it again, which has been quite nice. But what I think I did realise was how fun this car is. Like I said, it's a family car, it's a big executive saloon car, but actually it is great fun. And when I get behind the wheel now, sort of got a newfound appreciation for how this thing reacts, what this thing is like. So yeah, very interesting indeed. The instructor actually said he's never had a more comfortable lap around a racing track than in the passenger seat of the Volvo here, with his bum being warmed. It was a perfect 16 degrees in the cabin, and I even had the sat nav up at one point as I was chucking it through a chicane. So yeah, it really was a brilliant day out. So thanks again to the IAM, although I do think I probably need to get a bit of a better track car if I'm going to do it more often, which I'm hoping to, because I loved it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.